Hey guys, and welcome back to Wandering Aimfully, the show.
You're Caroline Zook. I'm Jason Zook. We're two idiots on the internet who talk about random things.
Speak for yourself. I'm super smart.
Oh, yeah, we talk about that a little bit. We also talked about that on a previous episode. But this episode, we are diving into our experience with travel, what travel means to us, where we like to travel, how we like to travel.
What's important to us when we travel, and how you can start saving for your own dream trip.
Your dream trip that you've been thinking about forever. So if travel excites you, and if you want to hear us talk about some of the fun places we've been and why we picked those places.
And where we're going in 2019.
Keep listening and enjoy. And then also, please send us your travel recommendations. We mentioned this a couple times throughout the episode. We would really love them. So hello@wanderingaimfully.com. We'd love to know the gems, the amazing places you've been. Share those with us and enjoy the episode.
Hey there, we're Jason and Caroline Zook, a husband and wife team who believes life is just one big experiment.
This is the show where we share our journey as we figure out this ever-changing thing called life. We cover topics like running a business, traveling the world, and clawing our way out of debt, all with the hope of inspiring you to live, work, and create with more intention.
Life might bring its twists and turns, but when you know who you are and what you want, you're never really lost. Welcome to Wandering Aimfully, the show.
Welcome to the Watch Pod. 25 minutes on the clock.
25?
Yeah, that's what we've been doing.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought we've been doing 20.
We're diving in right away.
Okay, dive. Go into
This
the deep end.
episode, as we've already done in the introduction, you already know, is on travel. But first, yes.
Chris Cold Bud Light to all you listening.
Excuse me.
I sometimes want to say it.
That is a crisp, cold, natural
Milwaukee's
ice
best.
light.
You said something weird last time, like, isn't an old beer like Schlitz? Isn't that an old beer?
I believe Schlitz is an old
Do you
beer.
think that's still a thing?
Yeah, for sure. In the movie Super Troopers that I tried to get you to watch that you didn't have any interest in, you got very bored of, he drinks, Farva, the character, drinks Schlitzes at the bar.
The character's Farva.
His name is Farva.
I thought you said that he
one of
drinks
the
Farva.
most famous thing. We're gonna waste a bunch of time with this, but it's fine. One of the most famous quotes from that is that he wants to order a liter of cola, and so he goes to like a fast food joint, and the guy behind the counter is like, "I don't know what a liter of cola. Do you want a large cola?" He's like, "No, I want a liter of cola," and it's like a funny thing that goes on.
Is it a funny thing?
Yeah, it's
Listen,
funny.
I understand.
There are people right now listening
Listen
to
to
this
what I'm
in their car dying laughing.
Are they?
They're pulling off the side.
Can I tell you
'cause
something about Super Troopers?
The movie?
When I was like younger, I was very aware that Super Troopers was like a very like, would you say it's like a cult comedy?
Oh, for sure,
Okay.
100%.
I was very aware that like it was cool to like Super Troopers because whatever, boys liked it, and like if you liked it, you were like a cool girl. And so I was like, oh, I'm sure I would like Super Troopers. Like
Yeah.
I have a good sense of humor. And then I never watched it. Years later, you're like, you make references all the time. You're like, we've got to watch it.
Yeah.
And so I'm fully prepared because I'm a cool girl to like Super Troopers. And I'm sorry, y'all. Unpopular opinion.
Unpopular
much
opinion.
like how I like Christmas music. If you call back to that episode, but I couldn't get into it.
Yeah.
I didn't laugh, and I'm not gonna fake it just to be a cool girl.
No, we turned it off after like 15 minutes because you were just
It
being
just didn't
grumpy.
land.
You were just being grumpy.
Oh,
You
I
were
was
ruining-
being grumpy.
You kind of crushed all my hopes and dreams. That's what you did.
Well, you've not yet seen Titanic, and you crushed my dreams.
Ugh, gosh. Rose doesn't make it. I get it. Jack doesn't make it?
I watched our vlog the other day from my birthday.
Oh, yeah.
Where like there's a whole segment on you
Where
trying
I
to
try and
explain
explain the Titanic.
plot of Titanic.
And then still trying to remember. Okay, let's get into this episode because we've wasted so much time. And there's so many things we want to talk about with travel.
Are
so
there?
I want to give a shout out to Danny Ives. She's a Wandering Aimfully member. Hello, Danny. She actually asked this question in a Wandering Aimfully Q&A video. We do some Q&A videos behind the scenes
Private
for our
vids.
members.
Which
And
is less dirty than it sounds.
She asked us what were our 2019 travel plans, and it got us to think about that when we recorded that video. And I forgot of one thing I wanted to talk about that I think is fun that I want to do next year that I think we're going to do at some point. But then also just to talk about travel in general and how it's changed over the years for us, because there was a time when we first started dating that we didn't have much money, and travel was really just like where I had a speaking gig. Like that was kind of it.
I also think that you and I over the years have come to like accept our travel preferences.
Yeah.
Like we fought it for a long time. Like we're bougie travelers.
Let's
just say what it is.
Here's the thing. Let's just get one thing right out of the gate.
What is it?
I'm not ever going to stay at a hostel. I'm not going to do it.
You're not going to go camping.
I'm not going to go camping. I actually, to be honest, I don't even want to go glamping. I don't want to be like outside at
Unpopular
night.
opinion.
I want a king size bed. I'm 6'5" or 6'3"
king
and
size
3/4.
bed when we
I don't know.
travel-
We measured me recently, and I was like, wait, I'm not that tall. What's going on here?
The king size bed when we travel is a very big deal.
When we sleep in a queen size bed together because we're married, and you're allowed to do that when you're married, it's not comfortable.
It's not fun.
Like I'm elbowing you, you're elbowing
Do you
me.
remember when we went to the cabin at Big Bear earlier this year, and it was a queen size bed?
Oh yeah.
And I slept, y'all. First of all, it was a bed that was against a wall. And so
Yeah.
if you're the person who is sleeping near the wall, I'm in the crack.
Yeah.
I'm in the crack of the wall, and
Yeah.
I just slept there for the whole night.
I will say that I do feel like not all queen size beds are made equally. I feel like some queen size beds in hotels you get in, you're like, oh yeah, this will work. It's fine. But then like that one when we went to Big, that was like a twin bed.
More importantly,
Child's queen size.
let's
Is that a
talk
thing?
about some of our favorite places we've been.
Cool.
Starting there.
Let's also talk about how we started to travel
More.
and have money for that. Because I think that's something that a lot of people have a big dream trip. And I would venture a guess that everybody listening or watching this has a dream trip that they've either wanted to go on, they want to go on in the next year or two, and they just don't think they're ever going to be able to afford it. And I think we have a good tip of how to help do that.
I guess you're right. Our first, I think, like tasting the bug of travel was doing road trips.
For sure.
So you had this opportunity. I remember this is where it really kickstarted. You had this opportunity out in California working with not publisher, but like the company who sponsored your Sponsor My Book project.
Yes.
So I'm talking
wait a
about when they were doing a trip, remember, out in California in Joshua Tree?
Oh, the authoring company. Behind the
authoring
book.
company.
Yeah,
And-
roundtable companies.
Exactly. And so you were like, we could fly out there to do this thing, or there was something else going on similar at the time in the area, and we were like,
it was South by. It was around March.
South by.
So South by
And so
Southwest.
we had all these
Yeah.
like trips around the same amount of time that we wanted to do, and we were like, it'd be stupid to just fly all these different places.
Yeah.
Why don't we get in the car and we'll road trip all the way to California, and we'll road trip all the way back to Florida. This is when we were living in Florida at the time, and that trip was so fun.
Mm-hmm.
This is also when you did camp. We camped for
Oh,
multiple
yeah.
days, and you were not.
Yeah.
You did not
So
like it.
just to give everybody the lowdown, we drove the what did we drive? We drove I-10 all the way across the country, not till it ended, but until basically like Joshua Tree in California. So from Jacksonville, Florida, where I-10 ends, essentially. I actually think it ends before that. It's something else before that, so you have to get to it. But all the way across the lower third of the U.S., stopped in Austin. We stopped in a bunch of places along the way.
So many places.
Found really cool places. This was like right when Airbnb was starting, and my mom watched Plaxico, which was incredibly nice for us. So we had 2 weeks of not traveling with a dog, which makes it so much easier to road trip, because otherwise we have to stay at La Quinta
That
Inn
was the-
Suites or dog-friendly Airbnb.
That was the first time we went to El Portal in Sedona.
Yes. Yeah. So anyway, we found all these little cities along the way. We built this spreadsheet. We kind of mapped it all out. We priced out all these hotels we were going to stay at and all these different cities we wanted to see. And it was so fun. I think honestly, one of my favorite parts of that entire road trip was driving west through Texas. It had to be driving, west.
Yeah, the sun was
the
setting.
The sun was setting for no joke about 3 hours
Yeah,
of
so
that drive.
it
was crazy.
We just happened to be driving at the same sort of speed that the sun was going down, and so it was going down in the west. And
Because
so
the speed limit in Texas was like 80 miles an hour.
yeah, so we were literally just chasing the sunset,
Yeah.
and it sounds as picturesque as it was. There's nothing in Texas, first of
Yeah.
all, West Texas,
Yeah.
and so all you can see for miles is just like open spaces and this beautiful sunset, and it was so gorgeous. And also, one thing I love about the road tripping thing definitely like kind of sparked our love of different places, but it also kind of sparked this epiphany in me, which is like when you remove yourself from your daily routine and your autopilot and your monotony, you find yourself thinking of all these things that you suddenly have space to think about. And that's one thing that I loved about road tripping, but also just traveling in general, is that it gives you this opportunity to explore possibilities in your mind that you maybe don't take time to explore in your day-to-day life. And not only was it just about seeing new places that kind of had me catch the travel bug, but it was like I felt myself growing and stretching, and we had so much time to talk and connect, and like, I don't know. I think it really changed us, like that whole time period.
I think if you want to see if a relationship is going to make it, go on a long road trip.
build a business yet. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that as well. But honestly, going on a long road trip, it shows you so much about how you and the other person handle uncomfortable situations, unknown situations,
Getting lost, taking wrong
difficult,
turns.
weird things, having someone manage the navigation in the passenger seat while you're driving.
Do you remember in Austin when we were trying to leave? Was it Austin?
No, it was.
When we went to that breakfast place.
It was New Orleans. I remember we were trying to avoid a bunch of traffic because there was a bunch of really bad traffic like right around New Orleans, and we were going through all these back roads. And
I remember that, and we just like ended up at like a dead end hospital that like hadn't been developed yet.
You showed me the map, and you were like, "The road shows that it goes through," and I was like, "Listen, I'm not frustrated. I understand this happens," and that was like, I think we got good at doing the map thing together on road trips.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think a road trip is a really great place to start. If you're someone who wants to travel, maybe you want to get out and see some stuff. That's, I think, one thing we realized too. So we drove I-10 all the way across the lower third, and then we drove I-40, which goes basically across the middle, not totally the middle of the U.S., but kind of the lower middle back, because you get a whole different view, you get a whole different landscape, and we didn't want to drive the same road back. And it really goes to show you that if you live in the U.S., and we know that a lot of people listen to the show are U.S. listeners because the stats tell me that it's like 75% of you are U.S., there's so much to see. And I know that it's cliche and everyone says it, but until you actually get out and drive and see different parts of the U.S., there's so much beauty in every single state, maybe except for like the southern like portions of like Mississippi, Alabama.
There's
like,
still beautiful stuff there.
Maybe. But anyway, what I was going to say is there is so much to be seen. And I will never forget also driving through like the New Mexico area where it's like all the painted, whatever that's called, like the painted mountains or whatever it is.
Like red rocks and the paint,
Yeah, it's just all the different striations of color.
Yeah.
And you're driving through and you're like, this doesn't feel like anything I've seen before. It's actually kind of reminded me, because we went to Iceland many years later, it's very similar. Like you see so many different terrains in a very short period of time.
The other thing that I want to say is that we started doing that and road tripping before we had the money for it.
Yeah.
So we were still in debt at the time, and it was a big swing for us to do these trips where you had to pay for gas. At the time, we didn't have our Tesla then, and you had to pay for hotels or Airbnbs. And it's, even like a road trip, it's not cheap, and especially if you do it cross country. But this is an important point that I want to make about travel, which is like sometimes it's worth pulling that money together if you know that it's something that is going to have a disproportionate positive effect on your psyche. Yep. So like every penny spent on those types of trips were worth it, because like I said, we had time to like think of our lifestyle and get motivated and fill our buckets back up. And like, I just think so many people get into this mindset of like, and I know we preach it a lot too, like if you're trying to get out of debt, it's like spend as little money as possible. But sometimes you have to make that call where you go, I'm willing to almost look at this like an investment in my future productivity and my future lifestyle. So maybe you do have to put it on a credit card for a little while, but you use that as a tool in order to fill your bucket back up so that you can then, get it re-inspired with your work, get re-inspired with your life. I just think so many people get into the day-to-day monotony of life, and they're actually not as productive or as excited about their work as they could be because they haven't given themselves that stimulation or inspiration.
I would say people even get into the day-to-day monotony of travel. Like they go to the same place, they do the same trip, and it's just because it's comfortable. They can avoid the unknowns of what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I would say that we're not the type of people that want to go the most adventurous travel. Again, I said no hostels, no glamping, no camping. I'm not into it. But I do appreciate when we go somewhere new. And, a perfect example for me is like Sedona is not like a crazy off the beaten path place. But the hotel we stayed at was very unique, very interesting. I think it had like 20 rooms. It still exists. It's called El Portal. We talked about it. Every room has a different theme of wood, which is really cool. And we'll never forget that hotel.
Yeah. So I think that's a fun other thing to kind of now move into is, what do we prioritize? And so we travel very intentionally. We don't just go, we're going to this place, find the best rated hotel, whatever. We travel very intentionally. So what are some things that we look for when we're going to a new destination? Or what do we look for in a destination?
Yeah, honestly, I think, especially nowadays, it's food. Because we've actually been on some of those dream vacations that we've all dreamed about and we've had as desktop wallpapers. And you get there, and when the food sucks, as much as it is, as wonderful it is to stay in an overwater bungalow and have the most amazing view ever, when every meal that you eat is overpriced and not good, it kind of dampens the experience. And I know that's like the most first world problem ever to say, but listen, we're talking about travel. We're trying to creating memories and having fun with it. But I do think for us, almost always priority number one is food.
Food, 100%. Because when we travel, it depends on the place, which is another thing I'll talk about, is like setting expectations for the trip. But when we go to like just a relaxing place where we know the priority is just to like decompress, we don't do anything.
Yeah.
And so the thing that we do is we eat, and then we look forward to the next meal, and then we eat, and then we talk about the next meal. And so we want the food to be good, and we want it to be unique. And now, especially eating vegetarian or vegan if we can, that is something that we have to kind of, that basically excludes a lot of places. So we have to kind of start with that. But specifically, you were talking about when we went to Moorea, we stayed at a resort in French Polynesia. So it's like Tahiti, basically. And this is like the dream trip. This was our first big, we got out of debt. We called it our money moon trip. We rewarded ourselves for getting out of debt.
By getting back into debt. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. And it was beautiful, and it was stunning, and it's probably one of the most visually stunning place I've ever been.
They turn the saturation way up somehow.
Yeah. They're like, oh, this water that you think is the bluest you've ever seen, crank it up a few more notches. And it was the trip of a lifetime. However, the only thing that I will say that detracted from the experience was the food.
Yeah, absolutely. And we just, it took away from everything. So to answer your question, long about way, we both said it, food is number one priority. Yes. Second priority, I think for us, is unique, interesting place that we're staying.
Yeah.
So
accommodation.
And I would say that is the hotel or the Airbnb or whatever it is. And we've found some good ones now, and it's so much easier nowadays. Like I can't imagine 10 years ago trying to find really cool, unique hotels or modern hotels. There are so many places that you can search those things and find those things now.
We almost always, our first Google search when we think that we want to do a trip is like boutique hotel blank
in whatever city. Yep.
Or vegan dining boutique hotel blank. Yep. And so, but that term boutique hotel, so you're looking at places that are maybe anywhere from 15 rooms to 30 or something. It's much smaller hotel. And so it just gives you this, we find that that's our sweet spot because it just gives you this like super intimate feel. The service is usually really amazing because they're not trying to service like, hundreds of rooms. And it's not that resort feel where you feel like everything is priced way up, but like the quality is way down. It's sort of, if the resort feel is like the mass market thing, the boutique hotel is like that sort of, local mom and pop shop kind of feel.
But upscale.
Yeah. So not mom and pop shop, but like I would say local artisan boutique or something.
Yeah. I think one resource that's been really helpful for us too, if you're thinking about traveling, you're looking to travel, you want to find interesting places, is Mr. and Mrs. Smith.com. They do a really good job. It's a travel site. You can book through it as well. A lot of times they have deals, and a lot of it's on more of the upscale, expensive side. And we honestly haven't used it to book anything. But when we were looking at like a next trip to take a couple years ago, we used it to kind of pare down where we wanted to go.
Exactly. It's fun for like travel inspiration. You'll think of, because for us, it's usually, I would say it's not even usually like the place.
Like the city?
The geographical location as much as it is the accommodations.
Hotel. Yeah. We're going to spend most of our time there. We're going to eat most of our meals there. We're not the type of people who go to a city, have a hotel, and then 90% of the day we're out wandering the streets and going downtown and going through all the art galleries. Like we may do that for a couple hours, but that's not our MO.
We always do this where we get to the place and we feel like we should do that because that's what people do when they travel, is like go see the city, be in the culture. And then we do it like when we were in Todos Santos and we're like, we'll go into town and we'll see the things. And we were like, can we go back to the hotel?
Yeah.
Which is fine. Which is, I think, a really important point about travel, which is like, don't travel the way that you think you should. Travel the way that you actually want to. And so that brings me to the point of every time we book a trip and we go into it, we ask ourselves, what do we want to get out of this trip?
What's the intention?
What is the intention behind it? So for Iceland, it was like adventure. It was like we do actually want to get out and see a bunch of stuff because we'll probably never be back here, although we're probably going to have to go back.
Yeah, we're
going
to go back.
But so we did a lot of planning and we did a lot of excursions, and so we didn't spend that much time at the hotel. But for most other vacations, it's like our intention is to, detach from technology and to relax. We always try to force ourselves to get bored. We're very bad at it. It doesn't last very long. I'm a little bit better than Jason is.
Yeah. I like we went to Tulum and we're just kind of like name dropping all these amazing places. And we realized that because it is really, truly amazing to be able to go to these places. So we've dreamed of a lot of them. And when we were in Tulum, our entire goal with that trip, we were going to be there for 6 or 7 days. And it was right after spending time with family for the holidays. And it was
Right before.
right before.
No, both. It was right after Thanksgiving, and it was
Before
right
Christmas,
before we went
yeah.
back for a wedding.
The idea was, how bored can we get? Because we had been working so hard, we've been focusing so much on stuff, and we just wanted to relax and decompress and recharge the creative batteries and do all those things. And for me, it's like half of a day, maybe 1.5 days, and then I need something to do. Like, I can't, my brain, I can recharge that quickly. For
Yeah.
you, it definitely takes longer,
Now that you're
which is
like
okay.
a reader, that
Well,
can stretch it out a little bit longer
it
because
is.
you can occupy yourself.
I read 5 books.
I know.
On that trip.
And then,
five entire
by
books.
day 3, we were like, let's do some business planning
And we
for next
did,
year.
That was actually the intention too,
Yeah.
was go relax and then do a planning of the entire next year. And so that's actually something we've done for the past couple years. We do a trip at the end of every year. Sometimes it's bigger than others. Sometimes it's smaller. Like 2 years ago, we went to a place, an Airbnb in Joshua Tree, and I actually wrote my book, my next book that's coming out, the first draft of it. And then we did a full projection and planning day on what we were going to be doing next. And so that was not a super expensive trip. It was a pretty local trip. Then last year we went to Tulum, which was much more expensive. This year we're going to LA. We're literally driving 2 hours north. We're staying at a $100 a night Airbnb, not expensive at all. And we're going to plan and do our projections there. So it changes for us every year. And I think that's the thing for travel too, is you set yourself up for dream trips and other things, but you're not always going to do dream travel. Sometimes
Right.
you just need to fill your bucket up by taking a 2-hour trip somewhere, getting out of your comfort zone. You talked about the Big Bear trip we did with our friends Jen and Caleb, who we mention all the time because we're in the Waj Pod, if you're watching on YouTube, which is their house, which is amazing. And that was a fun trip. That was just a trip for us to like be together, be friends, spend some wintry time because we don't get that in Southern California, and just have some fun.
And truthfully, like some years I feel like I want to travel less. And
Yeah.
some years I want to travel more. Like I remember 2017, we traveled a lot.
Where did we go in 2017? Think we can remember it?
We went to Iceland.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, we went to Asheville.
Yep.
So like that's still a cross country for us.
Yep.
Asheville, North Carolina. We went to Asheville. We went to Iceland. We went to
Italy. Yeah, for 2 weeks.
I went to Boston.
Mm-hmm.
And then we did Florida twice. It was a lot.
And Tulum.
And Tulum. It was a lot of travel.
Yeah.
And I told Jason at the end of the year, I was like, these have all been amazing. I'm so incredibly grateful. We are not doing like 3 big trips
Yeah.
a year again.
That was kind of the first, I think, thing where we noticed, man, travel gets expensive when you do multiple trips. And not that I didn't know that.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, not that I didn't know that, but boy, it really kicked us in the financial buttocks. Anywho, so let's talk about dream trips and how you can take a dream trip, because I do want to talk about our 2019 travel plans, because I think it'll be fun to share some of that.
I don't have my glasses on, but I don't see a lot of red left, just so you know.
I know.
On the timer.
So one of the ways that we did our first dream trip, which was our Tahiti trip, French Polynesia, going to Mo'orea, staying in the over-the-water bungalow, doing all of that, eating not great food.
Doing an ATV tour to a pineapple farm,
ATV
like
tour
the whole thing.
Yeah, I actually have video of all of this. I just haven't spent or wanted to
We'll
spend the
upload
time.
it to the YouTube channel at some point.
Some point. How did we, do you remember how we saved for that trip?
How we saved for it?
Yeah.
No, but I do remember that we got a substantial discount thanks to, we utilized like the credit card point system.
Yeah. So the first thing I'll say is, when it comes to a dream trip, the easiest way, not easy, but like, I think the best way for you to actually take a dream trip is to pick a date in the future, usually 1, 2, 3 years in advance. And we picked our Tahiti trip over a year in advance.
True.
And break down how much it's going to cost, and then try and put that money aside every month.
Yep.
So you no longer go, this is a $10,000 trip, I need to save $10,000 right now. That's impossible. You go, no, this is a $10,000 trip in 18 months. Okay, what does that break down to? Okay, I need to put away this amount of money every month. And maybe how can I make a little bit extra every month? How can I do that? And maybe you won't make it all, but it actually becomes easier to see that big number and to get to that goal by breaking it down and doing it ahead of time. And then you can do some travel point stuff. Now, we are not the like travel hacking family that knows all of these things. We just do some simple stuff. We use the Chase Sapphire card. I think they actually have a card that now has better points. Like there's a 3x point card. But there are a couple things you can do. Number one, if you sign up during like a bonus period, and you can usually find these on like nerdwallet.com. They talk about this. You can get a big bonus in points. And usually that bonus in points is enough to pay for like one night of a hotel, which is pretty cool. Then if you have a significant other or just a friend who you can get to sign up under your account, this is like the affiliate game, you get a bonus of like 10,000 more points.
Right.
So right off the bat, when we signed up for these cards, I signed up, you signed up, and then your brother actually signed up. So with everything, we had 2 nights of our hotel stay in Tahiti completely paid for.
This is like almost $1,000 a night.
Yeah. Oh,
bungalow.
yeah. And then we booked through Chase Rewards, which is their travel booking program.
Yep.
And there was a 20% off discount that they offered. No one else was offering it for this specific hotel. It was a Hilton hotel. And it was fantastic. We then saved 20% more. So when it comes to booking these trips, it does get a little bit easier to stomach that big bill and that ability to make that happen by doing a little bit of these travel hacks, doing a little bit of research and sleuthing around. And it becomes much easier nowadays to do that. But I just wanted to say that I think dream trips are so out there and people think they'll never have them, but they can become more attainable when you actually look into it more and not just go, oh, I'll never afford to be able to go there.
Yeah, and make a plan. Disclaimer, do not open a credit card. Just open a credit card and to use it for credit. We opened the Chase Sapphire card because we put all of our expenses on it and then we pay it off every month.
We pay it off really every week.
Every week.
Yeah.
We don't use it as credit. We use it as like a debit card that you post pay.
Yeah.
Disclaimer.
So I know the timer's
going
to go off because I have that ability in my mind.
You know that feeling?
I have this like thing where I can like sense a timer's going to go
now
off.
I'm nervous. Oh my God. Anticipation.
Is it like Operation, the game? Is that what it feels like to you? Where it's like getting close to the sides?
No. It's aggravation is the game.
Aggravation? No. It's definitely not aggravation. I think it's operation because you're operating on the doctor guy.
Yeah, but that has nothing to do with time. Oh, you mean where you're waiting for the buzzer?
Yeah.
Oh, there's a game called Aggravation.
Oh.
Where I think it's time-based, where the timer goes off.
Oh. Anyway, so the timer went off, but we're going to take a couple minutes to talk about our 2019 travel plans. Sure. And then we would love to hear yours. If you're listening to this and you just feel like sharing with us, we'd love to know amazing places you've found. And if you want to share this to us on Twitter or via email, you should be able to figure out how to get a hold of us. Oh, I have a sneeze brewing. I think I got it. I saved it, everybody. Whew.
Nothing's worse than like a stifled sneeze.
No, that was okay. That one was good. Yeah.
I hate that feeling.
Yeah, I felt it. And
I don't shut it down. I let it out.
Yeah, you do. All right, so our 2019 travel plans. So we just booked a trip to Norway, which is really cool because Norway has been on our list. What happened?
Like the way you just said that to me was like sort of a question and like you were telling me for the first time. I felt like my natural response should be like, whoa,
we did? Well, it is kind of interesting because I just booked the travel for it, so it does feel a little bit different.
You're my own personal travel agent, babe.
Anyway, big shout out to Thomas Moen, who is a Wandering Aimfully member. He is having an event in Oslo, Norway, and has invited us to speak to it. So
speak at it.
Speak at it, yes. And we're really excited. So that's why we're going.
We're good at speaking.
I'm Jason the Simpleton. If you remember from the authenticity episode, I use small words and I make it easy because I'm dumb.
I'm Caroline. I use big words and I'm smart.
You're smart, Carol. So we're going to Norway, which is very exciting because that has been on our list.
Yes.
Also, my great-great-grandmother emigrated to the United States from Oslo.
Did you pick up that also your Aunt Gail said that her side is Norwegian?
I did.
So you might be. We need to look at your 23andMe.
Full-blooded. I don't know. I think I'm just a Viking. Don't you think I'm just a Viking? I think I'm just a Viking. Anyway, so we're going to Norway. That is one trip.
I think I'm just a Viking. Don't you think I'm just a Viking? Hashtag, don't you think I'm just a Viking?
Yeah, totally. Now I really want like a big Viking hat of some sort.
You know.
So Norway, which is exciting.
Can't wait. Super excited.
The other trip that I want to do that we haven't locked in is the Amtrak across the country. Yeah. So it starts as a train from San Francisco to New York City.
It starts as a train. Now, what does it turn into when you get to New York?
That's the fun of it. You don't know.
Did anyone catch that? So it starts as a train in San Francisco.
But here
turns into a plane about midway through the country. Then it morphs into a boat, and you just go around the world like Magellan.
Wow. The Pinta de Maria and the Santa Maria? I got it wrong. Nailed it.
You got all the things wrong.
Yeah. This trip, I'm actually excited about, this train trip. And I don't think I've been excited about a train trip ever.
Never.
So
you like sleep on it?
Yeah. So it's 4 days. It goes across the entire country in 4 days.
I already have anxiety.
But I think it'd be fun.
I mean, I'm going to do it.
So much of it.
Okay, I'm going to do it.
The trick, though, and this is where like our bougie travel tendencies come into play.
You get the swanky cabin.
Well, that, but also how are we getting back? I don't want to take a train ride back. I want a train ride out, but I want
don't.
to like fly back or something.
Okay.
So I think what we might actually do for this trip that could be fun is train ride out, fly maybe somewhere in between, and then fly back.
Chicago.
Oh, okay.
We've been talking about going to Chicago for so long.
What about Chicago do you want to see?
The redemption of the time that earlier on in our relationship when you canceled a speaking gig because you were upset with me. Do you remember this?
Oh no, I completely forgot.
Are you kidding me?
This goes in the back in the archives. My brain's like, put it in the files.
Remember when we got in that fight and I was like, I don't think this is gonna work. And
This is very early on in our dating.
This is like for first couple of months. And
Wow.
you had a speaking gig in Chicago and you were like so bent out of shape because obviously you didn't want to lose me because obviously.
Wow.
And you told me that you canceled the speaking gig.
Wow.
You canceled it and you didn't go to Chicago. And you basically told me I ruined Chicago for you. And so we got to go back. We got to make it okay.
I completely forgot, but also Chicago has great restaurants and lots of fun stuff to see. I've been multiple times.
Listen to what I'm saying. You have something very wrong with your brain.
It's a Viking brain.
I've never met a person that just has the ability to completely wipe parts of your mememory gone.
Yeah.
Completely.
Very quick aside. I know we're over time. Oh, I'm so bad at this. We watched the movie 8th Grade last night with our friends, Jen and Caleb again.
They're only
friends. That movie made me try to think about my 8th grade
and
experience.
You can't think of it.
Not a single memory.
You guys, not a single memory.
Not a single. I'm not even kidding. I'm not even going like.
What
oh,
if you're like
Jason
Jason Bourne? Like, what if I don't know?
That's cool.
What I don't know.
All right,
I can't
let's
trust
move
anything.
on to everyone's favorite segment, which is the end of this podcast.
Did we cover everything related to travel?
I think so, but if we didn't, please let us know if you wanted us to talk more about travel. If there's anything we missed, if there's anything that you thought we were going to talk about.
Because we're going to do a follow-up episode.
Yeah, we'll do a travel part 2. If it's like a really popular episode, and it's like, oh my god, I love everything you're saying about travel. I want to hear about everything. All right.
Respond in the comments if your favorite part of the podcast is Jason's
silly
impressions.
Voices. Is it impressions or impersonations? I got a little bit of self-confidence when I wrote impression in my Instagram story.
You got a little bit of self-confidence.
That's Freudian, 100%. That's Freudian. A little bit.
Even your self-doubt turns to self-confidence. Who are you?
I'm dying. I'm so hot.
I know you are.
Woo! Is it impression or impersonation?
Impression. Well, it depends.
Oh. So when I did my walk-in, was that an impression? But why isn't it an impersonation?
It's both.
Ah, okay. Let's move on to
I think an impersonation is when you actually act as that person.
We're going to Google this for everyone.
No, I think it's like if you dressed up as Christopher Walken and you try to convince people you're Christopher, you're the person.
Him. But if I'm just doing an impression,
you're impressing
others.
That
makes sense. Simple, Jason, got it. That's a good thing to do. Okay, let's get to a good to be everyone's favorite segment. I don't know if it is, but I like saying that. We Googled that for you.
Okay.
This is, we've been in a little bit of a trend the past couple episodes, not past couple, but a few episodes where it hasn't necessarily been a thing. It's been more of like a list of stuff.
I like the list.
I know you do. And you get to guess.
Let us know. Do you guys like the random phrases or do you like the lists? Because I like the lists. That doesn't mean you have to agree with me. I'm just saying.
Let's both take a drink. Okay. This is the United States Order of Dates and Statehood. Now, the reason I picked this one, I have 3 Wagugtfees on my phone currently. And this one felt right because of the travel that we're doing in 2019 across the country. We talked about a road trip. It fits right in, right?
I think this is also where Smart Carol gets
Let's find out.
Exposed.
I thought you were going to be like, Smart Carol, get smarter.
No.
All right.
My self-doubt turns to self-confidence, too.
For everyone at home, you can play along in your mind. I'm going to ask you the first 3 incorporated states, and maybe incorporated is not the right word, but the first 3 states of the Union, the United States. You don't have to tell me the dates. I'll tell you the dates. You get 3 strikes, you're out to guess the first 3. Then we're going to do the last 3. Okay?
Okay.
First 3.
Pennsylvania.
Correct. Pennsylvania was the second state. I had no clue about the first one, just so everybody knows.
You didn't learn about the 13 colonies? Like, at least you have 13 to choose from.
That information made it just, why? Why? No interest. Time's running here.
The first 3.
Yeah.
Okay. Massachusetts.
And strike 1. Massachusetts was the 6th state.
Dang it. Virginia.
And Virginia was the 10th state. That actually surprised me when I looked at this list. 2 strikes.
Vermont.
And Vermont was the 14th state. Ladies and gentlemen, the number 1 state in the United States.
New York.
Delaware.
Yeah, Delaware.
That makes sense to you?
Well, now that you say it, definitely. Is that my phone?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, sorry. Definitely there was some type of like.
Why are your eyes closed? Are you okay?
I'm
Are you taking a nap?
I'm trying to get them to go to the files.
Oh, yeah.
God, you
Smart
have to
Carol?
close your eyes.
For Smart Carol?
Delaware. Something like the Articles of
The Delaware
Incorporation.
Purchase?
No.
That's the Louisiana Purchase.
I knew
All
Pennsylvania
right,
because I
third
think.
state,
Okay.
New Jersey.
Yeah.
So the first 3 states, Delaware, Pennsylvania, New Jersey.
Okay.
Good
Good
job.
trivia.
All right, let's go last 3 here to round out Wagugtfi. The last 3 states,
Well, we know the 2 of the 3.
I know you do, but that's what it's fun.
Okay. Alaska, Hawaii.
What order?
Alaska was 49 and Hawaii was 50.
Nicely done, Smart Carol. Now, 48th state. 3 strikes, you're out. Let's go.
Okay. The 48th state has to be.
There has to be a history major listening to our podcast that's just screaming
Well,
into his
like,
car.
what would it have been? Just like land?
Well, that's going to open the show for sure. What would it have been? Like land?
Well, I'm trying to think. Do I go to something like, North Dakota?
Hey, here's the thing. You got 3 guesses. We're running long on time.
North
Let's
Dakota.
Go. Wrong. North Dakota was the 39th state.
Ugh. Oregon.
Wrong. Oregon was the Oregon Trail. Come on. 33rd state.
Idaho.
Close. 43rd state. 3 strikes, you're out. Arizona.
So it was just blank?
It was just, ready? Land. It was just land. Here's what I think is really interesting.
What? Was it a part of Mexico? I don't understand. I don't understand. I need history.
I think it may have been in part of Mexico.
Okay, I gotta go on a deep dive.
New Mexico and Arizona were the 47th and 48th states in 1912, a month apart.
1912?
Yeah.
That is not that long ago.
Here's what's interesting. Alaska and Hawaii became states. When do you think? What year?
70s.
No, come on. Really? I wouldn't have guessed that. 1959. That seems so recent to me.
It's so recent.
That's
it's
crazy.
so recent.
Like my grandmother was born and those 2 states were not states.
Your grandmother's young.
I know.
What year was your grandmother born?
I don't know. She's 29 years old, so I don't know. This is the running joke in my family.
Oh, no, you know what's crazier? My mother was born.
See?
That's what I did it reverse. I was
Yeah.
like, your grandmother's younger than my mom? And then I realized, okay.
All right. That'll wrap up this episode. But I hope that's what everyone enjoys about this show. You
that
know?
it's random?
The silliness, the randomness. Caroline dying. Everyone enjoys listening to you to see if you're going to make it through every episode. Is she going to make it? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Wandering Aimfully, the show. We hope you enjoyed this episode about travel. Maybe it gave you some inspiration to go on a road trip, to
start saving for that trip that you've always wanted to take.
For that dream trip. Even if that dream trip is 5 years from now, start saving what you can every month, and that money will add up. You will get to that dream trip. We promise you. And then also, we would just love to hear where you've traveled, awesome, amazing places we should go. I know another Wandering Aimfully member recommended Slovenia.
Yes.
Which looked really cool.
I would also love like hidden gems of cities in the U.S.
Oh,
that
totally.
Because we love those places.
Or in Canada. That's close enough too.
Or in Canada.
We like Canada. They're nice people. All right. Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you on another episode soon.